Welcome to Brew Build, your place for DIY home improvements. Today I'll be replacing the stucco drip screed with this new stuff. Let's get to this. There used to be a concrete slab here that went up to the bottom of the stucco. Then someone decided to add some tile with about 1.5 inches of mortar, which caused moisture to get sealed into this wall. I think that is why this is so rusted and the stucco deteriorated. Tools and items needed: stucco drip screed, stucco mix, a mixing tub, building paper, a pneumatic hammer, a claw hammer, a steel trowel, a London trowel, a stucco hawk, a green foam float, a sawzall or tin snips, a Wonder bar, a pair of pliers, a tape measure, paper towels, gloves, and your personal safety gear. Using a pneumatic hammer, I'll be breaking into the stucco. You need to be careful that you don't poke holes into the flashing that is behind the stucco. You want the stucco to crumble apart, which is why you use a pneumatic hammer compared to pounding with a regular hammer. On the brew scale, technical ability I rate as a novice. You just need a little knowledge about stucco and the ability to use a few tools. Physical ability I rate as difficult. This doesn't take a lot of strength, but you do end up working in some awkward positions. I'm going to do some quick bursts with very little pressure. You want the stucco to crumble apart, not break back into the wall, tearing the building paper, which can be very brittle in older homes. Remove the staples that hold the wire mesh in place. An old screwdriver and a pair of pliers works well for this. You need to get the wire pulled up away from the wall to remove the old drip screed. This old building paper is super brittle. It did tear in a few places. So I'll have to insert some new building paper up behind the torn existing paper, so when moisture comes down the wall, it will stay on top of the new building paper and the new drip screed, then drain out the bottom. I have the old rusted cracked stucco screed removed. Time to get the new one cut and attached to the wall. This new drip screed will need to go up under the window flashing membrane as well as the black paper. The challenge is that the sliding glass door flange is attached to the stud, so there's no way I can get the drip screed up under the flange. I'm going to trim this here and then seal it with some silicone, but the rest of it will be up under the building paper. I'm just going to eye about where this needs to be cut. Use tin snips or a reciprocating saw to cut the metal. I also cut a 45-degree at the other end. Let's see how this fits. I want to make sure that it is level, then I'll attach it with some galvanized nails. You want the drip screed to be about 1 inch lower than the sill. I'm just a little shy of that to give myself a little more clearance for the concrete pavers that I'm installing. A drip screed has holes in the bottom to allow the water that comes down your wall the ability to drain out, keeping everything inside the wall dry. I'll mark this and get it cut. Tin snips do work better for cutting this. When using a sawzall, keep the blade as flat as possible. Remember, the drip screed needs to go under any building paper or flashing, not on top. In my case, most of the paper deteriorated, so I'll be adding some new building paper on top of this. When adding the new building paper, it needs to go up behind the existing paper. Try to get it up the wall 6 to 8 inches. Since this is a studded wall without any sheathing, the wire mesh will be attached to the studs every 16 inches. I'm going to cut some pieces about 16 inches wide to fit them up between the studs. Just keep wiggling the paper back and forth until you get it up the wall. You want the new building paper to go past any of the damaged parts of the old existing paper. Once you get the paper in, then you can pull the wire mesh back down and reattach it to the sill. You want the wire to be tight up against the new drip screed, but you want to leave enough space for the stucco to get behind the wire mesh. There are some special furring nails to use with stucco wire mesh that are designed to hold the wire off the wall. Since this area is so small, I'm just using some 3/4 inch galvanized staples. I'm ready to apply the first coat of stucco. This is the mix for your standard stucco brown coat or scratch coat. When finished, the stucco wall will be about an inch thick. But you don't want to apply the entire thickness in one coat, so you apply a base coat or a scratch coat, which is about a 1/2 inch thick. Then before it dries, you run a trowel or a scratch rake horizontally across the stucco to make indentions into the stucco that will produce a rough finish that the second coat or brown coat can stick to. This takes about 1.5 gallons of water per bag. I'll just guess on how much that should be for this amount of mix. It does make it easier to work with a mix that is slightly on the wet side. I added too much water, so I'll add a bit of mix. Alright, this is looking pretty good. You want the consistency of a thick milkshake. I've learned to put down some building paper, so when you spill or drop the stucco mix, which you will, you can pick it up again and use it. For the first coat or scratch coat, you want to apply about a 1/2 inch of stucco, mashing it in between the building paper and the wire mesh. The wire mesh should be completely covered with this coat. Getting stucco into a small area is more challenging than working on a large area because it's difficult to get the large stucco trowel into tight spaces. I found placing the hock on top of the drip screed, then using a small London trowel to push the stucco mix off the hock and onto the wall works well for something like this. first coat is done, I'll let it dry for about 15 minutes, then add the horizontal scratches into it to turn it into a scratch coat. Since this is such a small area, I'm using this trowel instead of a rake to make some horizontal scratches in the stucco. This is to give the second coat or brown coat more surface area to attach to. The base coat has fully cured here, so I'm going to mix up some more stucco to apply the second coat, and then once that dries for a little bit, I'll actually use this with water and you'll give it that texture to help it match the existing stucco. I already sprayed some water on this to help the second coat dry slower. Time to mix up some stucco. It's been about an hour to 90 minutes of this drying. I kept it out of the sun as much as I could. I'll use this to scrub the wall a little bit and it will bring the sand out to give it more of a texture of what the existing stucco looks like. And you actually use quite a bit of water on this thing. So it's pretty much dry to the touch now. Move the foam float in circular motions to blend the edge and pull out the sand aggregate. Make sure to rinse the float often to keep it clean of stucco. Since I'm painting this to match the wall, once this dries, I can paint this coat and I don't need to add a color coat. You do want to keep it moist for a couple of days so it dries slowly. When it dries too fast, that's what will cause it to crack. Be sure to clean off any extra stucco from the drip screed and any window trim that you might have. The new drip screed and stucco are finished. I could have spent a bit more time blending the edge, but I think overall it looks fine. Comparing the before and after pictures, I think you would agree. Be sure to check out this video to see how I built my paver patio. Also, hit that like button for me and subscribe to Brewbills to see more DIY home improvement videos.